Imagine a scenario where, for some inexplicable reason, all humans disappear from Earth for 24 hours. We're not talking about a global catastrophe or a great tragedy. Instead, in one moment, everyone is gone, without warning, without apparent cause. Just, no one is here. What would happen to the world, to nature, and to the structures we've built? First, let's look at our infrastructure. What happens to the cities we've built? From towering skyscrapers to small houses in villages, every structure we've created to house and protect ourselves is intrinsically linked to the ongoing work and maintenance of humans. The collapse of energy systems. The first thing we'd notice would be the immediate collapse of energy systems. Without anyone operating power plants, electrical grids, or solar panels, the power would start to fail rapidly. With no humans to adjust controls or provide maintenance, generators and distribution systems would stop working. In a few hours, many cities would be left in the dark as substations would stop functioning without supervision. Some places might continue with energy for a bit longer, thanks to backup systems. But within 24 hours, the lack of critical maintenance would cause most infrastructure to spiral into a failure cycle. Imagine the cold, eerie silence in the streets, with no cars running, no lights illuminating the streets, and no buzzing of electronics. But what would happen to our homes without electricity and power? All of our appliances, such as air conditioning, heaters, and refrigerators, depend on electricity to function. In the case of refrigerators, the fresh food inside would start to spoil. Any perishable food you left behind would deteriorate quickly, creating a mixture of smells and possible insect infestations. The wild taking over without humans around. The streets and forests we've built would begin to be overtaken by wildlife. Without the constant threat and vigilance of humans, many urban animals, such as rats, pigeons, coyotes, and hawks, would emerge from their hiding spots. Dogs and cats, now without owners to care for them, would likely begin to group together in colonies, facing a world without rules, without regular food, and with more space to explore. And what about the wild animals? In less human-impacted areas, life would continue normally, but without direct human intervention. Animals like deer, bears, wolves, tigers, and even endangered species would have more room to expand their territories. The forests and savannas could even revitalize a bit, as many species have struggled to maintain balance due to urban sprawl. However, this freedom would come with consequences. Many of these animals could enter urban areas and start to look for food in places they wouldn't usually be. Imagine lions and tigers strolling through abandoned city streets, or deer eating what's left in empty house gardens. Nature would begin to reclaim the spaces we once dominated. Silence in the cities. Within an hour, the streets, which were once bustling with activity, would become eerily silent. The shops would be closed, cars parked on the streets, and roads deserted. A scene reminiscent of a science fiction movie. There would be no one to care for the pets, no one to deal with the trash on the streets, and no one to move the vehicles on the roads. But the situation would turn into a natural chaos in the cities. Without anyone to manage traffic, traffic lights would stop working, and abandoned cars in the streets wouldn't be moved. The world would be quiet, but also unnervingly unsettling. Perhaps in an area where nature is closer to the cities, you would begin to see trees and plants invading urban spaces, spreading across sidewalks and even through the streets. domestic animals left behind. Now, what would happen to domestic animals? Without humans to care for them, many dogs, cats, and other pets would be confused and likely try to group together. But without regular food, these animals could become more aggressive, looking for food wherever they could. In more wild areas, some pets could even join the wild. Dogs and cats, accustomed to interacting with wildlife, might begin to integrate more closely into those ecosystems, although they wouldn't be able to fully adapt to wildlife. Food infrastructure breakdown. Now, back to food infrastructure. What would happen to the crops and food products? Without anyone managing the farms, crops in progress would have to follow their natural cycle. However, the lack of regular harvesting would mean that fresh and perishable food would begin to spoil. The pre-produced and stored food products, like canned goods and frozen foods, would remain intact for some time, but in the long term, the storage and distribution of these products would fail. There would be no one to distribute them, and without electricity, many of these storage infrastructures would break down. Soon, any food left on the shelves would be consumed quickly, before it expires. The planet's environmental recovery. What about the environment? Without human action, many natural ecosystems would have the chance to recover rapidly. Air pollution would decrease without the cars and factories running. The level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere would drop drastically, giving the planet a brief respite. However, nature wouldn't be completely immune to the consequences of human absence. The rainforests and coral reefs, already under pressure from climate change and pollution, would need more time to recover. This, without our help, would take years, if not decades. Additionally, the plastic pollution and other waste we've left behind would continue to affect wildlife and the environment over time. However, the absence of human activities would give the planet a rare opportunity to begin healing. Without humans around, the wildlife would begin to move more freely, establishing new routes and territories. Birds, like pigeons and crows, would likely take over cities, while bats and insects would dominate the nighttime environment. The forests and savannas, once under constant human threat, would see some recovery, but many species would still be affected by the lack of environmental management. Soy and corn plantations, which feed much of the world, might spread uncontrollably, creating a new type of ecosystem. At the end of 24 hours, the planet would be transformed. The cities and structures created by humanity would begin to slowly crumble, but nature would begin to adapt and reclaim its place. Animals that normally lived in forests and wild areas would occupy urban spaces, creating a strange landscape where human life had been replaced by a new kind of ecosystem. And what do you think would happen to the world without humans for 24 hours? Leave your comment below, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible videos like this one.